Chapter 8, Shadow Lake Bog. Alright. I was swaying gently back and forth, swaddled in darkness. I knew I was dreaming. It was the same dream I'd been having. A soft voice was muttering in raspy sing-song. I couldn't make out the words, but I knew exactly what this was. This sensation was familiar. I was sleepwalking, and this was the dream I always had when I was doing it. I mean, you do it like every night, so... But it wasn't sleepwalking, was it? I need to wake up.
Sleep. Just sleep.
Who are you?
Sleep.
The voice barked. Ironically, it was that sound that woke me up. I'm dressed! A wave of dizziness washed over me as I jolted into the world of the waking. I instinctively stuck out my hand to catch myself, scratchy tree bark grazing my fingertips. I almost panicked, but it quickly gave way to a sort of muted annoyance. So, I'm outside. Again. I sucked my breath in as cold, damp air gusted over me. The tree tops creaked gently in the breeze. This had already become too commonplace to be a surprise anymore. I was just glad I'd worn shoes and a long-sleeve shirt to bed. Even with those, it was still freaking cold. I looked around and realized with a sinking feeling that, again, I had no idea where I was. It seemed like each time I did this, I managed to get further and further from the house by the time I woke up. I mentally kicked myself for not wearing something heavier to bed. Something with pockets, so I'd at least have my phone. I'd been worried someone would notice I slept in my clothes, but I should have risked it. At least I'd have been warmer. The moon was hidden behind an overcast sky, so there wasn't much light to see with. And through the branches, there wasn't a hint of light from houses to be seen. So I was definitely pretty far out again. I shivered as the wind kicked up and tried to pull my shirt tighter. Just how far out, though? I had no way of knowing. Just like I had no way of knowing which direction I should go to get back. Elliot had said he had to work, so I knew he wouldn't be coming to my rescue this time. What do I do now? Channel your Fae energy to find the way home? Excuse me? I feel like if you channel your Fae energy to find home, you're gonna find fairy home, not your home. I don't think that's a good idea. I think yeah. I'm not gonna do that. I am curious, like, how she figures she's gonna channel that energy, but... Obviously, the only real option was to just walk back the way I came and hope for the best. Of course, even then... I had no way of knowing if I'd been walking a straight line the whole time. Even if I did an about-face and walked in as straight a line I could manage in the dark, I might not get back home. But if I could just make it to some houses, to a road, I could find my way back from there. I wonder what time it is. No school tomorrow, so I didn't have to worry about that, but I did have to worry about Mom and Dad finding me gone, which was a pretty serious problem. Oh, and the murderous vampires apparently lurking in the woods. And my stalker brother and his evil sidekick, the school counselor. Yeah, I was in pretty deep. I need to get back before dawn, before Mom and Dad wake up. If I had to fight a murderous vampire in the process, so be it. I'd almost rather face that than deal with another major freak-out at home. I could not put Mom and Dad through that again. So if any vampires wanted to try to get between me and home, let them. I'd claw my way through an army of them if I had to. She says, while shaking so hard she can barely walk. Bravado aside, I was terrified, but I had to just try to stay alert and get back home as quickly as I could. I started carefully picking my way back through the underbrush, hoping I was going the right way. Normally, I didn't find the woods frightening, even at night. Now, though, just a little intimidating. People have died out here. Really, really died. Horribly. Ugh, stop thinking about it. I couldn't afford to freak out right now. Going to pieces wasn't going to get me back home before Mom and Dad woke up. It's okay, Nora. You've done this before. You just have to stay calm. Right. Calm. I took deep breaths, noting how each one clung to the night air when I released it. It was too cold for me to be trotting around in a thin shirt and pants. My fingers and toes were already numb. Clutching my abdomen as if that would keep me warm, I stumbled through the tangled mess of forest floor. Dead leaves, scrubby brambles that pulled on my pants, and wet ferns dogged the thin animal trail, only barely scratched out through the brush. My foot caught on a small fallen tree, and I staggered forward, just catching myself before I hit the ground. Damn it! I glared at the sky and the vague halo of light where the moon was trying valiantly to break through the clouds. Yeah, that's not helping. Maybe I should start sleeping with a flashlight around my neck. I mean, if you had your phone, you could use that as a flashlight. Well, this is a part of the woods that we have not been in before. I did my best to just keep walking. The little slippers I'd worn to bed were already soaked through, but at least they offered some protection against thorns and other pointy objects. It feels like the trees are thinning a bit. I wasn't sure if that was a good thing or not. I still couldn't see any light, so I knew I wasn't near my neighborhood. But if there was a road or something, I might be able to figure out where I was. Why is the ground so soggy? 'Cause it's a bog. It was like walking on a sponge that made soft squishing sounds with every step. Gross. I wished I had just a little moonlight to help me see. And 2 seconds after that silent wish ascended the heavens, my foot caught on something big and I lurched forward, arms flailing. Please don't trip over a body in here. Because of course I did. I went down, something catching my hair and raking against my cheek as I fell. A stray branch from the blackberries, maybe. Fortunately, the ground was soft. Really soft, actually. So was whatever I tripped over. I caught myself on my hands and rocked back on my heels, straining to see what I'd fallen over. I expected a heavily mossed log or something, but it was a decomposing body. But it was really light for a log, and it had a weird shape. What the heck? I moved closer, narrowing my eyes. Wait. My heart leapt to my throat as I realized what I was looking at. A sprawled body, head tipped back at an impossible angle with the mouth gaping, face frozen in a grimace. Eyes staring. I shrieked and fell back on the soggy ground. No! No, no, no! The whites of the staring eyes gleamed even in the dim light. The skin was so pale. I gagged and clawed my way away from the body, another scream still caught in my throat. Have to get away! Panicked, I picked myself up and ran blindly from the area, unsure if I was even going to the right way. I didn't care. My feet were suddenly splashing through shallow water. A foul smell pervaded the air, seeming to rise up from the ground. I stopped, breathing heavily as I tried to catch my breath, but gagged again, this time because of the smell. I've been running toward the bog all this time. Shadow Lake Bog was several miles from home. I'd managed to wander that far. I pressed the back of my hand to my nose and let out a frantic, muffled sob. Oh God. There was a body back there. A dead body. All I could see was that ghostly face. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to push the image out of my head. I had to get back. I had to tell someone. What if whoever killed that person was still around? I crouched in the mucky water, gripping my head. Have to calm down. Now I knew vaguely where I was. I could probably make it back to the main road. Standing, I carefully tried to wade back the way I'd come. The mud pulled at my feet, making it hard to move. Before I knew it, I was knee-deep in muck. I slid down a shallow hag into deeper water. Ugh. Every movement I made stirred up more of that awful smell. I tried to focus on breathing through my mouth as I struggled to climb back up to drier ground and to not think about Those eyes, just staring. I shook my head and focused on pulling myself out of the water. One thing at a time. I finally managed to claw my way back up, gripping huge handfuls of peat in both hands. I sat at the top of the peat hag, breathing heavily. I stared up at the night sky as I tried to catch my breath. This is a nightmare. I couldn't stay in one place. I had to get back home. I had to tell someone. I had to. What's that sound? It was faint, but I heard the sound of singing. Soft, beautiful voices. I looked around, but saw nothing out of the ordinary. Where's that coming from? It was as if someone had just turned on the creepy soundtrack in a horror movie. I was definitely not okay with this. Okay, I'll be leaving now.
Roll!
A voice. Yep, time to go! I wasn't a big horror movie fan, but I'd seen enough of them to know that this wasn't going to end well for me unless I got out of there right away. Good job, girl. I struggled to my feet, and there was a soft swell of voices. I glanced back in the direction they were coming from. Don't do it, Nora. Don't you dare. Still, I felt almost drawn in that direction, like something was calling for me. I had the strangest feeling that there were answers waiting for me that way. There was also a strong sense of nostalgia, like I knew those voices. I'd heard them before. I felt an old memory tugging at the back of my mind. A memory from when I'd gotten lost? The music was soft and pretty, like the music I always heard in my dreams. This place was not far from our old house. Uh-oh! There goes her soul! She's losing it. Let's see. Vampires, 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 vampires. Let's see. Brownies, glamour. Ah, there we go. The fairy talent for creating beautiful enchanging? I never heard that word before. Music is legendary. Could be enchanting. Whether it's singing or playing instruments, there are dozens of stories and myths about their musical talent. Unfortunately, fairy tunes carry a bit of danger for mortals, as the music can entrance and partially pull one into fairy itself. If you stop to listen for even a few minutes, you may find yourself trapped forever. Or worse, you'll find that in what you thought to be a few minutes, decades of real time actually pass by. Well, that's not good. Our old house. My mind went far away as that memory pulled hard at my thoughts. I forgot the dead body. I forgot the danger I was in. And almost as if in a trance, I took a step toward the voices. Oh, no, 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 no. We gotta go, girl. No, no, no. That's bad end right there. I'd read enough fairy tales to know I should not follow the singing voices, no matter how alluring. It was almost painful to turn away and go the opposite direction, though. That was when I also realized my poor slippers had apparently met their demise in the bog water. Grand! Ugh, dang it! I steeled myself and headed back to the trees. I really hope I didn't stumble on the body again. I staggered away from the bog, away from the voices. As they faded, that lingering compulsion to follow them began to fade as well. I was relieved. I stopped to rest against a tree and get my bearings, as much as was possible in the middle of a dark forest. I feel like those last two options I did are bad end territory. I mean, I think I avoided the first one, if that is the case, but I'll have to see if I avoided the second one. But I'm like, if she goes to Fairy now, she's just keeping her part of the deal, so she'll be stuck there. That's why I didn't follow it for answers or anything. I'm like, that's not gonna end well. I heard rustling and some kind of odd noise. There was something moving not far from where I was. I could see movement through the trees. What is... I was rooted to the ground, unable to back away. unable to keep going. There was just enough moonlight highlighting the figures for me to recognize the familiar head of purple and black hair bent over the body. I clapped my hands to my mouth, trying to muffle the cry. Oh, God! I'm actually turned away from the screen right now with my hands over my eyes. Since you can't see me, I will describe what I'm doing. Yeah! Elliot. What are you doing? Is this why you had blood on your shirt? Well, I guess we'll keep going. It was too late. He looked up at me. Elliot. There was blood around his mouth, dribbling down his chin. It was running down his throat and soaking the neck of his shirt. I let out a choked scream and staggered backwards as recognition washed over his face. Nora? No! I turned and fled. Nora, wait! I didn't look back. I just couldn't. I couldn't stay. I couldn't listen to whatever he was going to say to me. This wasn't something I could accept. This wasn't acceptable. As I stumbled through the underbrush, feet screaming in protest every time they hit the ground, a million thoughts were flying through my head. How many times had Elliot done this? How many people had he killed? What was I supposed to do? Who could I tell about it? How had he managed to seem so innocent during the day, only to do things like this at night? I couldn't believe it was him, but I'd seen it. I couldn't deny what I'd seen with my own eyes. I felt sick. I clutched both arms to my abdomen, refusing to let myself stop and empty the contents of my stomach. My foot caught on something, and I suddenly pitched forward into nothingness. My scream was cut short as I fell headlong down a slope. Man, I fall down ravines and things almost as much as Cheeseroot did. I came down hard on one hip and slid most of the way to the bottom, vines and underbrush raking across my face as I fell. I came to a stop and lay to the bottom of the gully with the wind knocked out of me, feeling like a yard of skin was scraped off my back. Ow. Yeah. Ow. I looked up at the dark sky beyond the tree branches, tears suddenly stinging my eyes. Damn it, Elliot. Why? Why was everything such a mess? Go away! Leave me alone to mourn! I still believe in my heart of hearts that he's not the one killing people. That didn't look good, but I don't know what... I need Elliot to explain what was happening there. But I don't think he's the killer. But for real, fairies, good grief. It was a few minutes before I realized I was hearing that music again. Tiny lights lit up around me. They swayed softly through the air, almost hypnotic. Will-o'-the-wisps? I'd read about them. They were a type of fae. So beautiful. I felt myself fading again. It was like I was being pushed to the background and someone else was taking over. I struggled to stay awake as my eyelids suddenly drooped. Oh no, not this again. So sleepy. Brenna! Wake me up inside! There was a soft meow, and I saw a small, furry shape a few feet away from me. Elliot's cat. I tried to focus on her black fur. I reached for her, feeling my vision slowly fading. Then, right in front of me, the shape of the cat just shifted. Wow! Looking good. Fur shrank and melted into skin, and the creature seemed to just unfold itself. Limbs stretched and took on new shape. Ears vanished into long black hair, and suddenly a familiar figure was standing in front of me. Brenna? I managed to get the word out and the darkness began to melt. She was next to me, pulling me to my feet. "We can't stay here. Come on." I really didn't think I'd be able to stand. My legs suddenly felt like limp noodles. I was probably fortunate I hadn't wet myself. Then again, I was soaked, so who even knew? Brenna fixed an angry gaze on me. "Get up now!" My eyes went a bit wide as I realized for the first time that she was somewhat underdressed. But she looks good, though. That's a rather revealing outfit. Brenna crouched next to me, her eyes never leaving my face. You are troublesome, both of you. If you are going to wander around seeking a gate, this was a foolish place to look. Both? Gate? What are you talking about? She didn't answer. Instead, she yanked my hand away from my face, apparently to check the injury there. Oh. I squeezed my eyes shut, half expecting her to hit me or something as she leaned in. Are you licking me too? I guess you are a cat. Instead, something wet and rough rasped against my cheek. Gah! Oh, ew! She licked me! I rubbed at my face and immediately winced. Damn it. Ow. What is it with cryptics and licking injuries? Do you want the pain to be numbed? Knock it off. I'm just cleaning the injury. You're covered in filth. She gripped my head in a distressingly powerful grasp and leaned closer, licking me again. Stop it! If she wants to help, just let her help. I quickly decided I didn't have the energy to fight the weirdness, and I didn't really want to push her away and run the risk of accidentally grabbing unfortunate body parts. I just sat still while Brenna held my face and licked me. Which was all kinds of awkward. But there was something weirdly maternal about it. She wasn't being rough, really, though I didn't think she had any intent to let me escape her, ministrations. It was weird, but her tongue was raspy, exactly like a cat. I winced as it scraped over my injury, but didn't move away. Brenna, it kind of hurts. Don't be such a crybaby. She finally released me and sat back a bit, watching me quietly. Surprisingly, I had at least calmed down a bit. Being licked on the face by a scantily clad cat person in the woods was enough to take one's mind off of being attacked, I supposed. Something suddenly clicked, albeit a little late. Oh my goodness. Wait, are you Elliot's cat? Brenna smirked at me and leaned in really close again. It would have been awkward at the best of times, even more so at the moment. You're lucky that little fool is so interested in you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bothered to help. Elliot. I thought about what I'd seen and shuddered violently. I wondered if Brenna knew. She caught me by the face again. If you're at all undecided about him, you better make up your mind before Elliot gets more attached. It's not a matter of being undecided. Brenna stood and flicked her hair over her shoulder without answering. We should leave. The pixies have fled, but there are more dangerous things that live near here. Pixies? Those lights? She started away without waiting for me. I scrambled to my feet and tried to follow. I mean, Brenna probably knows what Elliot's up to. I feel like she basically knows everything. I don't know if she'd tell us, but maybe we should try asking her about it. Does Elliot know that you're, his cat? Brenna looked back at me and smirked. Guess that answers that. Yet another secret that had been kept from me. This is not quite how I wanted to phrase it. I don't want to say... I was gonna say, like, I saw Elliot with blood all over his face. And she probably would have been like, yeah, he's a vampire, duh. I don't want to say Elliot killed someone out there. She would probably be like, you are so undeserving of him, and kill me right here in the woods. I need to have trust in Elliot. I'll let Elliot explain to me. I could tell her about the body I saw. That should be pretty safe. There was a body back there. Dead. The soul's already vacated it. It doesn't interest me. What? That's a person back there. Brenna stopped and turned around. I pulled up quickly as well when she suddenly advanced on me. No, it is not a person, little girl. Perhaps it was, but now it's just a lump of meat. An empty sack of flesh already missing the most interesting parts. It's dead. And you will be too if you keep talking instead of walking. Okay, I'll just write that down in my journal then. I guess. Talk about your tough love. Good grief. Catchi were actually thought to steal souls, particularly of people who have recently died. That said, they're also easily distracted by riddles and wrestling games. Interesting connection. What is it with fairies and riddles? And sucking out your soul? It wasn't that she was wrong in principle, but how could it be that easy to dismiss something like that? That wasn't just a lump of meat. It was someone. Someone whose family would miss them and mourn. It was someone who had suffered, been afraid. Is that how Fae see human beings? Lumps of meat? Sacks of flesh? Brenna raised an eyebrow curiously. Oh, don't worry. We see the living as more than that. For all the good it's done you. What? She turned on her heel and continued. You also make good breeding stock. I let out a long, shaky breath before I followed, looking over my shoulder to see if anything was following. There was nothing behind us. We walked silently for a long time, it felt like. I was shivering and miserable. I stank horrifically. I still had the taste of bog water lodged at the back of my throat. Ugh. And I was soaked. I was making a lot of noise as I picked my way through the brush, but Brenna was moving almost silently. She was like a ghost. It was eerie, but seeing her ahead of me, walking with complete confidence, did give me a little comfort. It wasn't long before I could see spots of light shining between the branches. I let out a long sigh of relief. Ahead of me, Brenna paused. She motioned me ahead of her, and I went along, picking my way cautiously over the path. I stopped a few feet past her, staring up. I could see the dark outline of my back gate. I was so relieved. Brenna, I just want to thank... When I turned around, she was nowhere to be seen. Not in human form and not in cat form. I bit my lip and waited a moment to see if she'd reappear before I slowly went up the hill to the house. I wanted to go up to my room and curl into a ball and cry. Yeah, I think that would be a good time to do that. But I couldn't do that. I needed to clean myself up and decide how to handle what I had seen. I sneaked quietly across the backyard, grateful we didn't have a dog or anything. The house was dark and quiet when I let myself back in. The clock on the microwave informed me that it was after 3 in the morning. Mom and Dad were still in bed. I'd never realized what heavy sleepers they were before. I was probably lucky they could apparently sleep through their daughter having an ongoing existential crisis. I didn't know what I should do next. I was so tired and scared. Maybe I just needed to text Allie and see what the next step was, and ask her what the next step was. I grimaced. Was I really going to turn him in? I mean, I had to, but why do I feel so conflicted over this? I trudged up to my room, both exhausted and sad. I pushed the door open carefully, planning to go fall on my bed and quietly go to pieces. I figured, I'm like, there's no way. Right now, when she, like, needs to be alone the most, this is, like, when Spencer and Grant are like, we're gonna put you in this bag and take you in the van and lock you up in a basement and interrogate you. Yes. Instead, I came face to face with my brother. Well, sort of. He was sitting on my bed, his pale features standing out sharply in the faint light filtering through the curtains. We stared at each other, and in spite of the situation, I felt strangely calm. What are you doing? Where have you been? I was across the room in seconds, dragging him off my bed, my already frazzled nerves snapping. I asked you what you're doing in my room! Get off me! He shoved me away from him. I staggered back, managing to catch myself on my desk. My journal, the one where I'd been keeping my research notes, was laying upside down on the floor. Our eyes met again. You still haven't answered my question. Then I have one for you too. Where's my real sister? Changeling. Gosh, did I get to a bad end where he's like, just gonna kill me right now? A tremor of anxiety rippled through me. What did you say? Spencer should not have been able to read that journal. He told me he didn't remember that language anymore. I asked where my sister is! You can't say nothing. That's just like admitting he's right. What do you mean by that? Stop acting like you don't know! I winced as he practically shouted at me. Will you be quiet? Do you want Mom and Dad up here asking what's going on? They aren't your parents! That isn't true! He held up his phone. Show me what I look like. I saw a series of text messages displayed on the screen. Sister left the house. Following now. Her hair changed, too dark for photo. Shit, lost her. Sorry, she noticed me. Never seen anyone move like that. I see what you mean now. I read them over quietly. Was he really talking about me there? What did he mean about my hair changing? I swallowed nervously. Is that supposed to convince me of anything? There's no need to convince you of something you already know. Do you even know what Mom and Dad would do if they knew you had someone stalking me? Do you know what they'd do if they knew? I guess just remove the you part. Do you know what they'd do if they knew you weren't even human? And if I woke them up right now, do you think they wouldn't have questions for you? Look at yourself! I didn't really have to. I'd been in the bog, my clothes were wet and muddy. I reeked. I knew I'd have some explaining to do. It was the hardest thing in the world to maintain composure when what I wanted to do was go to pieces. For all his ranting, he had no idea what I'd just been through. He thought he had it bad because his sister had secrets. I'd just seen a friend murder someone. I took a long, shaky breath. Maybe it was time to just tell him everything. At this point, he'd already figured out enough that it was pointless to try to hide things from him anymore anyway. If I didn't tell him now, Allie and I would have to sit him down as soon as possible anyway. Are we really going to do this now before grandfather has like a relapse in the hospital? Spencer, I think we should... No! We shouldn't do anything! I want you gone, and I want my sister back! Would you just listen to me? Nothing you can say is of interest to me! I'm not gonna slap him. That's just not... That's not gonna accomplish anything. All we're gonna do is start wrestling on the floor, and Mom and Dad are gonna be up here like, what the heck is going on? If he's not in the right frame of mind for me to explain, slapping him is not going to help that. Have it your way. I'm going to ask you to leave. Now. If you don't want to talk to me, then just get out. I have more important things on my mind than you. I'm not! You are leaving. Or I'm going to make you leave. Don't test me, Spencer. I'm over dealing with you. You've already convinced yourself I'm the bad guy. So fine. I'm the bad guy. Now get out. Nice Mother Gothel reference. Spencer, strangely, didn't argue with that. He backed toward the bathroom door, then retreated without another word. I'm surprised that worked. I stood silent for a minute, trying to decide what to do. I was shaking from, I don't know, anger, frustration, fear. I couldn't stay. I had to get out of this place and away from him, away from just everything. I needed a shower, but there wasn't time for something like that. Instead, I just stripped off my muddy clothes and shoved them under my bed. I quickly changed and pulled on my jacket. Grabbing my boots and phone, I rushed downstairs as quietly as possible. I fled the house, leaving only a quickly scrawled note on the front table claiming I'd gone out with Allie. Spencer was right. And that was the hardest thing about all this. He was right. If my suspicions were true, then I didn't belong there. And they weren't my parents. He wasn't my brother, and I was just some sad imposter who didn't know how to get his real sister back for him at all. They were the only family I'd known, but now it felt like they weren't really mine anymore. And if I wasn't Nora Lewis, then I didn't know who I was, or where I belonged. Not knowing that was the worst part of all. I squeezed my eyes shut as I ran down the street away from the house. I stopped, out of breath, when I reached the bridge. I gripped the rail with both hands and crouched down, simultaneously trying to catch my breath and hold back the sobs. I heard a quiet voice say my name and sprang to my feet, whirling around. Well, A for effort for trying to wash the blood off your mouth. Although there's like a stream right here. You could have like just, you know, splash some water on that. No? Elliot was a few yards behind me, looking like he'd probably followed me when I'd fled my house. I really shouldn't be surprised, but I didn't want to see him right then. I didn't want to even think about him. I shrank back, backing myself toward the other side of the bridge. There was still a smear of blood across one cheek, evidence that I really had seen exactly what I thought I had.
Nora, wait. Please.
Stay back. My voice quavered. Quavered? Yeah, I think it's quavered. And tears threatened to spill over. But I couldn't. I had to stay calm.
It's not what you think. I know what it looked like.
What else can it be but what I thought it was? You had blood. You still have blood.
I know. I know that.
Better. He hastily wiped at his face.
But I wasn't hurting that person. Please believe me.
It sure looked like you were hurting him to me. He didn't look like he volunteered for a blood donation. Elliot's face crumpled as if he didn't know what to say.
Nora, please. I don't want you to think of me like that. He needed help. I really was helping him. Please believe me.
I felt my will crumbling. I was so tired and so scared. And I had no one else to turn to in that moment. I didn't know what to do. That's all you're gonna give me? That's it? And now I gotta make a decision based off of that? Great, thanks, game. Very, very helpful. I mean, of course I'm going to believe you. But you have got to explain how you were helping that person exactly. Aw. I finally let out a pent-up sob and flung myself at him in relief. I just wanted so badly to believe him, and I couldn't imagine him really hurting anyone.
Nora!
He wrapped his arms around me, hugging tightly. At this point, if he decided to take a bite, I didn't even know that I would fight him. Oof. But he didn't, of course, because it was Elliot. So I clung to him and, unable to hold back anymore, started sobbing uncontrollably. He pulled me even closer, resting his chin on the top of my head. My hair was still a mess. I'd changed, but I still reeked of bog. His sensitive vampire nose was probably not thanking me for the intrusion into his airspace, but I wasn't thinking about that in the moment. I was just so glad to hear him say it wasn't what I thought. It could have been a lie, but I really, really needed to believe him. I needed it to not be a lie. Elliot let out a long, shuddering breath, and I realized that he probably hadn't been expecting me to believe him.
What are you doing out here? Are you okay?
What was it about someone being kind in moments of distress that made one even more hysterical? I fully dissolved into a shivering mess and couldn't even get out a coherent answer. Spencer was waiting. Go away, Mark! Oh my god. I swear, by the time I get to your room, I'm gonna slap you in your beautiful face.
As much as I hate to interrupt this touching scene, we are going to have company very shortly.
Mark? I didn't have the fortitude to bite back, or even look at him.
Who? Allie and Danny are right behind me. I tried to lose them to no avail. Damn it, Mark, just...
He burst out of the trees and stopped as soon as he saw the three of us gathered on the little bridge. Well, impromptu powwow, anyone? Allie popped out seconds later. Danny, we should probably... She stopped short when she saw me. Nora? What are you doing here? What's wrong? Please don't tell me these morons talked you into... I didn't have time to answer any of that before she was at my side with a concerned look. What happened to your face? I reached a hand up absent-mindedly. I'd forgotten about that scratch. I... fell.
Were you sleepwalking again? Is that why you were out there?
Again? Are you okay?
Sleepwalking? What are you talking about?
Poor Danny, the only one not in the know. No one answered that.
I think I need a full explanation of exactly what's going on right now.
I glanced at Elliot again, unsure what to say. I kind of found him gnawing on someone's neck.
Elliot and I were searching in the bog for the killer. Nora happened on us and we gave her a bit of a fright. She fled. I'm not sure what happened to her from then on out. You were doing what? We just wanted to help. You were pulled off the...
He stopped and took a step closer to Elliot.
There's blood. I can smell it. What is going on? We found a corpse. And another victim who was alive but dying. The attacker was nearby, so we split up. I went after them while Elliot tried to save the other victim. It's their blood you smelled.
Were you trying to turn him into a vampire? We need to let Velos know. He's with...
Did you know about this, Allie?
She looked away awkwardly. Well, I only recently found out.
You told her.
Well, there were reasons. He did not look pleased by that. Alright, look, everyone's lying to everybody in this route. Let's just move past that.
In any case, Velos has already been informed. We're fortunate he was already in the area. Elliot and I were just heading to the club room where he told us to wait for him.
This has turned out to be annoying. Nora, you should head home. We can talk later.
I can't go home.
What?
It's complicated. I can't go home. I'll just go somewhere else.
There's nowhere else you can go at this time of day.
As much as I hate to say it, we don't have time to deal with this at the moment. Nora, if you can't go home, then why not go to the club room for now?
The club? Is that okay?
Of course it is. You can wait there while we try to get the rest of this sorted. Okay?
Oh, okay.
I'll take her. We can go through my room.
I don't know if that's wise. Grant Mitchell was lurking around earlier. He might still be. Danny and the others looked around, though. I mean, it's not like I expected him to pop up from under the bridge or anything. He might be, though.
He might be, but I don't think he's anywhere around here. I think we'd be aware of him. We'll keep an eye out as we go back, but my room is the fastest way.
I just nodded vaguely.
Come on.
He started to lead me back up to our houses. We walked silently for a few minutes. I'm sorry I ran away from you.
No, I'm sorry you saw that. It was probably gross, right?
It's not that it was gross, really. What exactly happened?
Mark and I found that person, and the culprit. As we thought, a feral. It was horrible. I've never seen one until tonight. Anyway, it ran off when it saw us. Mark chased it, and I went to help the person. Thankfully, they were alive, but... Well, remember when I said we can numb injuries?
Yeah?
It's actually a sort of paralytic venom. In small doses, it just creates a numbing effect, but in large amounts, it can do things like paralyze major organs. I was basically trying to remove as much of the venom as possible. I mean, it's not really the best method, but I didn't know what else to do. I don't even know if I really helped.
I hope it did.
So do I. I'm just really sorry I scared you.
I was already scared before I saw you. That's probably why I just completely freaked out.
I scared you because you were scared.
Don't argue with my logic. It's early, and I'm cranky.
Why did you have to leave your house? What did Spencer do?
He was waiting for me in my room when I got back. He knows. He knows everything. Elliot pulled me into a tight hug.
Okay. It's okay. Don't worry about that. We can handle that too.
He reached up and gently touched my face. His hand traced the curve of my cheek, and I felt his thumb graze my lower lip. He looked like he wanted to say something else, but he just released me and took my hand again.
Let's get to the club room. It's freezing out here.
I didn't argue as I followed him the rest of the way to his house. Too much had happened to even be weirded out by the magic closet anymore. I just wanted to get somewhere safe again.